Friends, we are delighted to welcome Susan McCaslin today. When Susan reached out and asked if we would be interested in having her offer a poetry reading, I just felt like, wow, yes, we would be so interested. What a generous and wonderful offer. Susan is a poet, obviously, writer, educator, and she's going to share some of her poetry that's written in conversation with the writings of Hildegard. And of course, Hildegard is the patron of the St. Hildegard Sanctuary community, and today happens to be the day we're celebrating the Feast of Hildegard, so we're particularly delighted by this opportunity. And I'll just share a little bit about what Susan sent to me with regard to her own journey. Susan has been writing since the age of 12, when she discovered the magic of great books and the power of poetic language. In graduate school at Simon Fraser in 1969, poetry found her again and became her life's deep vocation. Her luminous companions include William Blake and the Romantic poets, Rainer Maria Rilke, Vernon Watkins, and Denise Levertov. She is drawn to the mystical traditions of many cultures and religions and experienced poetry as a musicality arriving from silence. I'm sure you can articulate this so much better than I. Through the books of Matthew Fox, she became deeply engaged with the life and writings of Hildegard of Bingen and has been inspired to write poems that celebrate her life. She is deeply drawn to Hildegard's visions, plays, mandalas, healing skills, and ability to speak truth to power. She is indeed a figure who remains pertinent to our time, and of course beloved of us here in the St. Hildegard community. And I'm just delighted to welcome you. Susan, over to you.
So much, Melanie. Thank you for that introduction. I should let you know I have a couple of Hildegard books that I bought years ago, and you can see that I was defacing my books. I had underlinings, but I think one of them was a used book. So I thought I'd pass them around and look at them while I'm talking, but you have to pay attention when I'm reading. So, I've never been to the Hildegard Sanctuary before, but I've heard about it from my friend Celeste Silver, that has given dance performances here. Can you hear me? Sorry, Susan, I think you're muted. Oh, that's okay. Let's try again. Let's see you. Good to see you. You might have thought I had a lump on my left hip. Is that better? Okay, we'll just assume that my thoughts I won't repeat. So anyway, I'm going to be reading some poems to begin with, from a book that came out in 2020 of my poetry, and it's called Heartwork. I've got my little stickies here, so I can be on the right page. And as I'm going through these, you might want to look at your images that we gave you. Not right now, but I'll tell you as the poems come up. Because the first section of this book is poems about Hildegard. And they're called, section 1 is called Songs for Hildegard. And I'm going to be reading, let's see, 6 poems from that section as a starter. But I'm going to begin with, on the sort of page, the introductory page of that section, I placed a letter that Hildegard had written to someone named Guibert of Gembloux. My German is not, in 1175. And I just thought it was interesting. I remain hidden in every kind of reality, hidden as a fiery power. Everything burns because of me, in such a way as our breath constantly moves us like the wind-tossed flame in a fire. From my early childhood, before my bones, nerves, and veins were fully strengthened, I have always seen this vision in my soul, even to the present time when I am more than 70 years old. In this vision, my soul, as God would have it, rises up high into the vault of heaven and into the changing sky and spreads itself out among different peoples, although they are far away from me in distant lands and places. And I'm thinking, we're really far from her in distant lands and places, 20th century versus the 12th century. And yet she's still speaking to us through her work. And so I'm going to begin with the first poem, and it doesn't tie to an image, so you don't have to rifle through your images yet. Hildegard's song. Hildegard sings, "God is life," raising the ancient breath word from its deep time I amness and patriarchal shadows, to say, life is to ground into green, her word, viriditas. This is why I'm wearing a green top. Okay. Wound and found in fluorescent sheen of moss-covered logs, asleep with dying cedars, inscripted in unfurling ferns, viridescent lime lichen, aurora borealis light. In Hildegard's love song, egoology becomes ecology. A verdant housekeeping, union of science, spirituality, art, retying all to all, where every creature matters. And to return to the garden is primal evolution, a movement through wheeling mandalas where we are, dust dancing, sparks sparking. So spark up your sparks. And she was polymath. She was scientist. She had herbal remedies. She spoke truth to power. She gave sermons and was supported by one of the popes. And she wrote essays and letters and if you read the wiki article on her, you'll see how many things she was able to do, what we would now call a Renaissance mind and heart. Okay, so the next one, if you look at the image of the little small one next to the, it looks like this, and it's called the Order of the Four Elements. There's two poems on that, two images on that page. Everybody got it? So this one is Hildegard's Heart Tree, a meditation on Betty Spackman's panel 9 of A Creature Chronicle. And I'll be reading her poem it's very modern, kind of like what do you call it? A poster or collage. And it's very addressing these times. So we'll get back to that later. Hildegard's Heart Tree. Behind Francis's left foot that chose forest floors over institutional marble, peripatetic wandering over ecclesial authority, brown-garbed simplicity over pomp, Hildegard's mandala poises for action. Even now, inside the circle of her design, under a firmament of water and floral stardust, a small plant rises, green shoot summoned from a seed, red flower looking something like a heart. Tree or flower? Do trees have hearts? The ancients thought so. Celts danced under arboreal canopies. Ancient mythologies celebrate world trees, cosmic trees, trees of life. Yggdrasil spreading its roots in heaven. New science says trees, patient sustainers, have hearts, not like ours, organs pumping blood to flesh's nooks and crannies, but inner, intentional pulsations carrying water and nutrients through fungal root systems to canopies. Laying ears to trunks, we feel the pulse. Dogs' noses know, birds' wings sense this mother love, steady beat of care. Yet still we rip and tear, hack and hew, profitless in our profit-based economies. Collective greed has created a new crisis, eco-nausea, eco-tensions. Yet for our span, whether long or short, why not begin in the seedbed of Hildegard's hidden icons, where imagination expands, questions bloom. If planting a single tree could help, could cutting fewer, planting more, open us again to planetary breathing? What's your answer to that? Yes. A big yes. And I'm going back to one I skipped over. This is called Hildegard Meets St. Francis and the Wolf. And that's the one that Betty Spackman did, where you see St. Francis prominent. Yeah, so everybody's looking at that one. So this is what's called an ekphrastic poem, which is a poem written in response to a work of art, which is what I'm going to ask you to do today. So I'll just I'll begin. Hildegard meets St. Francis and the Wolf. The cosmos lives in layers as a collage vibrates in layered images. Old and new, past and present converge. Chronos and Kairos kiss. Linear time and timelessness find places to embrace. Lines and circles play hide and seek beneath a rooster's weather van. See that? Yeah, good. Where St. Francis bows, suddenly we are here now with haloed brother hair, Francis and his pal Bro Wolf, who, it is said, Frank tamed, or rather, gentled by kindness. Food, respect. No wonder the saints' hands wear halos, extending peace to all. Under Wolf's belly squats a pert, everyday dog, golden nimbused, perhaps like the mutt a Palestinian woman once riffed on with Jesus, cheekily insisting, even dogs get a few scraps, so why not me? Do you know that passage in the New Testament? Jesus turns, listens, barrier breaker. So many circles, Hildegard, like your own rotating mandalas, one of which soars above Francis's head, along with the wild geese who know the way home. So the reason I included her is because she included two of Hildegard's mandalas into her artwork. Are you doing okay out there? Okay. I'm going to move to the poem that pairs with the Cycle of Life mandala. Do you see that one? That's the one that you will be working with, unless you really want to do another one, okay? Hildegard's signatures. Deep in the nether regions, just outside her mandala of circling trees, Hildegard sits in a rectangular cell, and that's at the lower left-hand part of the image. Hildegard sits in a rectangular cell, robed in cobalt blue, wearing a wimple, scribing what she sees and knows, what knows and sees her. transposing her smallness into a compressed vastness. She gazes up into the sphere that imagined her, infused her perceiving, that now cups her in her chair, where words and images fall on tablets of wax. Around her illuminated star wheel spin symphonic trees of all seasons, burgeoning, dropping leaves, dying, regreening, under which humans nurture, cultivate, harvest, sleep, work, play, while at mandala's outermost rim, in a zodiac of ochre fire, brother, sister, deer, wolf, crab, lion, goat, breathe into earth their breath of life, microcosm within macrocosm, wholeness within brokenness, brokenness within wholeness, love brimmed and rimmed, where we disappear into the frame. So, for me, you can disappear into these images, and I tried to capture some of the imagery of the icon itself. And I'll tell you more about her relationship with the little man that's at the bottom of that with her. She's in the corner, but there's a priest-like fellow with her. His name was Volmar, and when she was a little girl, she was put in an abbey by her parents when she was only 5 years old. But she really took to it, but she was shy about, she had visions from the time she was 5 years old. But she kept them to herself because she thought people would think she was being too proud or bragging or something. And she was just not sure what they were about and so on. But this Volmar was her confessor, because the nuns have to have a male confessor in where they're living. But he honored her so much that he agreed with everything she said. He supported her. He encouraged her strongly to do her mandalas and write and share her visions, particularly. And I think he died before she did, and she really quite missed him. But he really supported her. And so that's him with her. Just, a little background story. Okay, and the last poem I'm going to read from this one is the title poem for the whole book, Heart Work. And so I'll just read it. Heart Work. Praise to the bivalved, flesh-wrapped organ, the heart. Heart arc. Sight of heart work, channeling nourishment to flesh's crannies. Love's courteous courier, humble sage. My dog trots beside me along the Fraser River, her animal heart and mine in sync. We are small valentines within a vastness. Why does poetry raise a rhythm in the heart? How is it Cupid shoots darts heartward, not for cupidity's sake, but through eros, the greater longing? Why do hermits practice hesychasm? It's a Greek word, prayer of the heart, where the mind descends. It is then lungs fill, tongues chant, feet fly unthinkingly to valleys of tears, where we, bearing our hearts in hands, along with food, hope, kindness, we root, sleep, soar, R-O-O-T, where the arts are heart arts, pure acts of the educated heart. And that ties to the other poems, but they're not about Hildegard, but they tie into the visionary literature. Yeah. Okay. So what I'm going to do next is explain to you that I have a book that's been accepted by a publisher in Alberta. No, wait. It's at Bay Press. You can look it up. I think it's in Alberta. And it will be coming out next year. But it's a different book than I have done before, except for one with a poet on Thomas Merton. That was an anthology and focus on his relation to the women in his life. And that is, that this one is about, well, my friend Harold Renich, who lives in Vernon, BC, invited me to do a exchange of poems. So I guess you would call it a collaborative work, right? So the way it would work, he was interested in Johann Sebastian Bach, and I was interested in, I love Bach too, but Hildegard at the time. And so I would give him a poem tying to Hildegard, and then he would maybe suggest some changes, corrections, and then he would do what he called interplaying the other person's poem. So he would add lines of his own, and so these poems are a little bit longer because of that. And then I would do the same for him, and it'll come out later. So I'm reading from an unpublished manuscript. So, but I have, I'll start with the first one. This one is a poem addressed to Hildy. And we call it, the title is Hildy and Johann. And there's a dike where I walk a lot, and it felt like Hildegard was present with me when I was walking one day there. Heron, Hildy. And besides, herons to me are the contemplative birds, because they can stand so still there, you know. And there's a lot of herons at certain times of the year at the creek that's underneath the dike, or beside. Heron, Hildy, you are the shadow of a heron mirrored in a tributary of the Fraser. Stolo, Hauquamelin band, that's the First Nations group that is near us. Your blue ore of a wing filters through time and space. Herons have fished along the Rhine. Pigeons recline at Ebington Abbey. That's one of the abbeys where she lived. On a hill near Rudesham, where crows flock to dine on snails, thrushes, feast on late harvested Riesling grapes. Yet you, divested of your drab black garb, sweep in on a heron wind. Your flight path through interspace to Glen Valley, where crows dive bomb eagles, geese arrow across the evening sky, coyotes howl, nocturnal liturgies in ravines. That's a new kind of liturgy. Who follows whom? Who leads? We are homed by magnetic lines through lineages of longing. Alchemies of fire in sound waves. We rest along the dike looking east, since all is entangled, interplayed, though muddied, polluted, colonized, we thrive as one, or not at all. Opening to Viriditas, green choirs of gnats chant in river grasses. Frogs rumble counterpoint at dusk. Is your stillness and plunge for the fish, or are you, contemplative and an activist, searching for the rare anemone virginiana, the virgin anemone? It's a bit of a joke, 'cause she was a virgin. Okay, I'll go that. Is your stillness and plunge for the fish, or are you contemplative and activist, searching for the rare anemone Virginiana, whose blooms are now so rarely seen. So that was my day with Hildy, where she turned herself into a heron. You can use your imagination. You can go wild if you want. Okay, now this one is a more political poem. And this is where Hildegard is speaking. And I was concerned about the treatment of migrant workers in the fields below that dike, where they were working really hard. So Hildy is speaking. Hildy considers the migrant farm workers. Walking near the fields and vineyards near Bingen, I would sometimes pause to chat with the peasants, offer them poultices for their ailments, and trade herbal remedies. They who toiled the seasonal rotations, born of privileged nobility, though straitened as a child, I kept my visions to myself, gripped by fear of being thought a heretic or of the devil's school. If not for Volmar, my confessor, who thought my visions real, I might have let them go, not let him scribe the record, authenticate the fire of the fields and vineyards near Bingen. And had Bernard of Clairvaux not praised me to Pope Eugene, these seeds of contemplation, and had he not blessed this greening persistence, suggesting I write down all I'd seen and heard, they might have died. And did you know that one of the popes supported her? Yeah, not a lot of them didn't, but he validated her visions and allowed her to speak publicly and so on. So unlike most women of my time, I became unsilenced, influential, unanchored, free to speak my truth to power. Yet now, along a Fraser Dike, crosswise in time, little has changed. Elites still thrive on labor of the poor. Caged in theologies, whether feudal or capitalist, create new cages. And few ask, who benefits from this way of seeing hierarchies as the order of things? Temporary foreign workers flown in to pick blueberries, squeezed into bunkhouses, trailers, and sheds, fall ill. While above them on the dike, glancing at the workers as if through plexiglass, women, coiffed and buff, stroll, well-groomed dogs fresh from doggy spas. Tattooed teens in sports bras count off calories on their apps, while in the fields under Mount Baker, white trucks pick up exhausted workers from the muck and drop them off in mud to sleep in their dreamless bones. I, with the heron, Stabat Mater, watch and strike, ask again, what does mysticism have to do with justice or contemplation with action? And what's the answer? Well, I like to bring them together. Doing something for the world and others, and then having your inner life as well. Also, Stabat Mater means standing mother in Latin, and so it's like the Virgin Mary standing on guard for you. Okay, and then this is the last one I'm going to read at this point. And have any of you heard about her morality play and composition, Ordo Virtutum? One person. Okay, so this poem kind of explains it, but it was what's called the first morality play ever written. And it also was put to music, and the parts were played by her nuns, and Volmar got to play the devil in this one. Though he wasn't a devil, but you have to have a devil to. And the plot you can look up, but basically these 9 virgins, one of them falls away from the path of spirituality, because she thinks she wants to go to heaven right away, and they say, no, you can't go yet because you have work to do here. We don't want you to leave yet. And so then she got seduced by the world and kind of ran away from the order for a while. But then she came back repentant, and the virtues took her back in. And then after that, she wanted to be there and was glad to be there. And then they bound Satan, who was trying to tempt her to go back to, not being spiritual, being part of his party. So that's sort of the plot there. On listening to Hildegard of Bingen's Ordo Virtutum, means the order of the virtues. How does the wavering bone of a monophonic line hold live marrow? How do bodies' hermit cells, unsurpassed nun notations, chant down the spine, wrapping diversity in divinity's liturgical love notes? Rippling melisma, melody, heart-calming interludes, creations on creations intoned, as when hearing through ears of corn or wind-roughed diamonds, phrase on musical phrase, unbuyable bounty, silence. There's always silence and rest in music, just as there are in poetry. Caesuras, they're called, in the middle of a line. Scales and notes interplayed, brushed like silk on skin. Mauve flakes of light lay themselves down past hierarchical approbation. A weeping virtue, humility, humus, earth-sourced, aligns her descent to your prescient hearing. Sound prior to sight, touch, taste, smell. Where cacophony harmonizes, webbed vibes gather, rise to explore time's riffs, R-I-F-T-S followed by R-I-F-F-S, a little play on words. And time's riffs and inner passages. They sound the same when you're speaking them. Anima, the soul, that was the woman in the play that had gone away and lost her sense of being a soul of God. And she's the one who returns. Anima, the soul, dips to the depths of her fear-born flight, drawn back to the fullness of incarnation, welcomed home by 17 feminine virtues. Oh, there were more than I thought. I think some were of a different order than the others. Led by Caritas, charity, queen of graces. Some say the devil has all the good music. Have you heard that line before? Yet in your morality play, he's given only grunts and rants, unmusic, consequence of shutting out life's song. So the devil can't sing. Gentle hands wind and bind his monstrous shattered integrity. Even now, many listen to your CDs, podcast, back music, spirit vibes, hum with Hildy at New Age yoga retreats. Have any of you done that? Yet something in us longs to slip to the now of the 12th century. Kneel in nave, spellbound inside your spilled, unspellable plain chants. O wild O's, O threads, O branch and diadem, O rose, O Mary, O dawn, O viriditas, vast green power breaking from withered leaves. So that's the end of my reading for now. And do you have any questions? Oh, thank you. How are we doing for time? Do we? Yeah. So I'm going to set up a writing exercise for you now, and I'll come around. I'm going to give you some guidelines on what an ekphrastic poem is, again, because that's what you'll be writing. But if you want to write, I would suggest a free verse poem. It would be easiest. But if you want to do a row of haikus or a rhymed poem, you can just a sort of, some people just put their poems in a paragraph, but the language is poetic. So I'll leave it to you about the form, because there's no rules for form in ekphrastic poetry. That what is important is interacting with the painting or the work.